We're recording the interview of Jerry Harvey. This interview is being conducted by Ericka Carter from the Wright State University Veterans Voices Project. This interview is being recorded at the Doubletree Hotel, 300 Prestige Place, Miamisburg, Ohio. It is 11:17 a.m. on September 13th, 2019. How are you today, sir?
I'm fine, thank you.
Fantastic. Where and when were you born?
I was born June 12, 1936.
Okay. Who were your parents and what were their occupations?
John and Ruby Harvey. She was a housewife. He was a Christian minister.
Okay. Did you have any siblings?
I have a twin sister and a younger brother.
Okay. Did either one of them serve in the military?
Pardon?
Did they serve in the military also?
No, neither one of them. Yes, my brother served in the United States Navy, yes.
Okay. So he served in the Navy. What branch did you serve?
I served in the Air Force.
Willingly?
Willingly.
Okay. And did he serve in the Navy willingly?
Yes, ma'am.
Did your Christian upbringing have anything to do with that? Did your Christian upbringing have anything to do with you serving in the military?
No, not really. When I graduated from high school, there was no money for me to go to college. I was talking to a recruiting officer and I found out that this was in January 1955, and if I signed up before the end of the year, then I would get GI Bill of Rights. And that was very important for me to have an ability to have a college education, otherwise it was not going to happen.
So you joined for the college money?
I joined for the college money, yes.
Okay. And what branch did you serve in?
I served in the United States Air Force.
Okay, and you picked that branch because?
That was the recruiting officer that was in the recruiting office at the time I went in.
So you had no preference, it was just, I need to go in the military because I need college?
Yes.
Okay. Were you enlisted or commissioned?
I was enlisted.
Okay. Where was basic training?
Lackland Air Force Base, San Antonio, Texas.
And how was that? Was that difficult, fun?
No, most enjoyable. I was an Eagle Scout, and that was just an extension of things I'd done in scouting, so it was a lot of fun.
Okay. And after extended Eagle Scout training, where did you go to job training?
I went to Chanute Air Force Base in Illinois.
And what was your job?
I was, my qualifications was anything I wanted. What they selected for me was to be survival equipment, aircraft survival equipment like parachutes and life jackets and all the life rafts, so everything that went on to any aircraft, so that in the event of an accident, there was some chance of survival on it. So it was not challenging, but interesting.
Okay. Did you have anything to do with the ejection seats?
No.
No, just things you wear.
Just things you wear.
Okay, okay, and other, okay. In training, is there any specific drill instructor or sergeant that you remember?
Sergeants that I remember. An old Master Sergeant Brill. He'd been in the service for almost 30 years, and he rather enjoyed harassing the young airmen and telling them how much we didn't know. But he was always good-natured about it. He never got. The fact is, I never had any of the officers or enlisted men that ever got upset other than, well, you mess up, there's somebody going to take you to task for it. But other than that, well, it was all fair.
Okay. How long was your job training?
Oh, about 8-10 months, something like that.
Wow, that's a long time.
Probably because they had an excess of bodies, and they took their time about training you and sending you to back then they were still building up the Air Force, oh, well, all military careers, but the Air Force is building up sizable number of enlisted people. So.
Okay, so this was 1955 or 1956?
1955, 1956, 7, and I guess the first part of 58. So.
That was your entire career,
The entire
right?
career.
Okay, so just the first year you were in training?
Training,
Okay. Are you still friends with any of your battle buddies?
No.
No.
I don't. I have no reckon other than the ones Master Sergeant. The rest of them I don't really. Now I never tried to keep up with them. It was. I was there to get money to go to college, and that was all.
How did your parents feel about you joining?
My parents, they were for it. They understood why I was going and why. I was not cut out to be a minister, and I was not going to follow in my dad's footsteps. So.
Okay. Okay. So you said that you could have any job that you wanted, but you let them pick.
They picked, yes. You know, they have a whole battery of tests, and I don't know, 1 through 9 or something. I had all 7, 8s, and 9s on everything. So literally, I could have anything, and this is where we're going to put you. So having no idea what a military career was going to be, okay, that's fine by me.
Okay. Did you receive any specialized training after that, like airborne or, well, Air Force doesn't do airborne, do they?
No specialized training afterwards.
Okay. So you train and then you go to your first duty station.
The first assignment was out in Lincoln, Nebraska with the bomber wing, and then I went to Japan with some kind of a transport group, and then I went out to the Pacific Islands for the atomic weapons testing. So.
Okay, so we're going to talk about all those transitions, but first I'd like to know, when you went to your first duty station, how did you adapt to the military life? Because it's different than training. Did you have any problems adapting? Was it new? Was it different? Was it fun and exciting? Did it suck?
No, it was. They had clean barracks and good food, and no, I had absolutely no problems with the way military done things. And it was not a whole lot different from home. When Dad said do something, you did it, and that was it. Somebody in charge of you tell you to do something, you did it, and that's all there was to it. No problems.
Okay.
They gave me no problems, and I gave them none. So.
All right. So your first duty station was Nebraska, correct?
Pardon?
Nebraska, you said?
Nebraska, Lincoln, Nebraska.
Was that a big difference?
Oh, well.
From where you're from?
That was with, yes, cold, wet weather down there, and that was with the Strategic Air Command, and that was back in when Curtis LeMay was head of the Air Force bomber group, and he was very fond of calling alerts. That's when we had bombers flying around the world all the time, and he liked to. I'm sure there was a method to it, no doubt about it. We always thought he just got mad at his wife and called it an alert, but I'm sure that's not the way it really was.
I don't know. Okay, so that would definitely mean more work for you, right? All those alerts.
Oh yeah,
you'd have to get up with the pilots, basically.
Get the air crews ready to go fly for 2 or 3 days at a time, and then it was, yeah.
Can you tell me about specifically what your job entailed, or what a day of work looked like for you? Do you remember?
A day was, all right, checking to be sure that all the equipment was up, inspected and ready to be used at a moment's notice, because you never knew when one of these things was going to happen, and so you had all the equipment, the parachutes and the life jackets and the rafts, and it had all been inspected and were on board or ready to be loaded when it was called upon. So it was a lot of times that you were just physically inspecting equipment and taking it out of service if it needed to be repaired and or repacked, sending it to the specialized units who took care of things like that. So.
Okay, so it wasn't your job to create or make. It was just maintenance. Was
just
your
maintenance.
Just maintenance.
Just maintenance.
Okay. Fantastic. And you did all this on the airfield, right? Like
right next to right on the flight line. We had, within a couple of 100 yards of the aircraft. So.
Okay. And how long were you at this duty station?
I think it was probably maybe a year and a half. Went to Lincoln, went over to Europe, and came back. And
so when you went to Europe, was that like a special duty?
Oh, that was just a rotation. Went to someplace in England, Lakenheath, England, somewhere over that way. Yeah.
Isn't it really like gray over there?
Pardon?
Isn't it really gray, like kind of rainy?
Yeah. No. Rainy, yeah, cloudy, rainy, but not uncomfortable in any sense of the word.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did you think of that? I mean, had you ever left the States before?
No, that was the first time I'd been out of the States. So, it was a different. Oh, I don't know what I say. They're more formalized than we are, and rank had more meaning to them than it did to us. And there was a more separation of enlisted people and officers in Europe than there was anywhere else. And the Air Force usually didn't make a big deal out of keeping the enlisted people separate from the officers at all. But in Europe, there was a more formalized.
Did you get to do anything fun in your off time in Europe?
In the fun off time? Oh, not really.
How old were you?
18, 19 years old, 20 I guess, when I finally got out.
Okay. So, and how long were you there?
How long was in the Air Force?
No. How long were you
in
at?
Europe?
Yes.
In Europe? Oh, I guess we were over there for 6, 8 months, something like that. Maybe not quite that long.
Okay,
but,
so just a easy rotation.
Yeah. My growing up, you go to school, you deliver your papers, and you go to church, and that was about it. And of course, scouting was a big thing for me. But so I wasn't into drinking or carousing around or.
No perusing for you.
Pardon?
No perusing.
No, no.
Okay, so you went to work, back to the barracks.
Yes.
Okay.
I rarely. Well, I saw some sights in England, but just on a tour bus, and
Okay.
relationships were not something that was important to me at that time at all.
Okay. So not a whole lot of friends, but you did your job well.
Did the job and got
on home. Was it more work in England or less?
less.
Oh,
Yeah.
that had to be relieving.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you head home or back to your duty station, and then what happens?
Well, then I got orders to go to Japan.
And how'd that make you feel?
Oh, I was ready for a little more adventure. Yeah. Now I've been across the Atlantic. Now I go get across to the Pacific, and that was a different thing. And got to Japan, and we was up north, up around Tokyo somewhere, and my duty station was down at the south end of Japan, and so I went down there and did the same thing with aircrew protection equipment, and flew over to Korea a time or two and back. And that was after the Korean War, but there was still a lot of. They were quite concerned with what was going on north of the DMZ, so.
They still are.
And they still are, you're right. But as far as personally feeling danger or anything, no, we flew in, we flew out and back. And then next thing I knew, somebody up in the line said, hey, we need your rank and position over here in the South Pacific for the atomic testing, and so that's where they sent me.
What was your rank?
Pardon? Rank?
Oh, yeah.
Airman First Class.
That's an E...
That's an E4, I guess it is. Yeah,
Okay.
E4 or 5. I can't. 4 and 5, I think, somewhere along in there.
And when you heard atomic testing, you didn't go, no way, man.
I didn't know. They didn't tell me what was going on out there. They just give me an assignment to go there. So
Okay.
I was quite surprised when I got out there of what was going on.
Okay.
No, they didn't forewarn me or anything else. There was no need to know in the military. They let you know when you have need to know.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So can you tell me in detail what happened or what that experience was like?
I was on an island in Weetalk. It's out in the middle of the South Pacific. At that time, they were doing a lot of testing of atomic weapons of various kinds, either atmospheric testing or in-ground testing. And as far as for the individual at my level, they would sound the alarm, and we'd go out and sit beside the barracks. And when we got ready to test us, they'd tell you to cover your ears, cover your eyes, and from next thing you know, you'd hear this explosion, and you'd feel the earth shaking and the weather, or the sand and all the stuff sliding around, and then soon you could always feel the light. It was just there. It was bright, extremely bright. They gave us no special protection at all. Again, they weren't being vicious about it, but they didn't know what was going to happen, and for the most part themselves. They were testing things. We were on this little tiny island, and sometimes the waves would come up and just slap at the island. Sometimes it would get a little violent, but nothing really life-threatening, other than you say, I hope that water doesn't come up too high, because anyway, there's only maybe 4 or 5 feet to the top of the island to the water level. So sometimes it would come up a few inches, sometimes it wouldn't. And but then the awesome feeling and seeing of these things going up. I mean, you'd hear the noise, and you'd feel the concussion, and then you'd see this giant cloud forming and just going up a stream and coming out, and it really is a mushroom cloud, and it's all different kinds of colors, and you just really understand the violence of something like that. Again, at that time they weren't really talking about such things as long-term effects on it. It was supposedly no different than any other bomb, although I'm sure that at some level they understood that, hey, this nuclear stuff is dangerous, but the radiation effect has not yet shown up too much. So. Now, as far as I'm personally concerned, I seem to have been one of the lucky ones. I don't seem to have any real known effects, other than I was there, and I'm a part of the radiation, some kind of ion radiation registrations for the VA that they periodically check you out and see. Did they tell you anything? Yeah, I suppose they will if there's something wrong, but my health has been very good, and I talked to, at the VA, you see an awful lot of people that have some very, very bad things that have happened to them from military life. Sometimes but that's part of life. It's a violent occupation. My part of it was not that violent or that exciting. It was just something that I was doing. But again, there's not many people who just say, "Hey, I witnessed what these bombs look like and what the heck."
Okay. So you said you saw the mushroom cloud.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so were you under it when it was happening? Was it at a distance?
The whole lagoon is probably 10, maybe 15 miles, and it's more or less a circle. We were on one side of it. The testing was on the other side of it, so we were within 7, 8, 10 miles of where the actual bomb was set off. And sometimes it was underground, and you'd feel it. When they went off in the air, you just see this magnificent cloud.
Oh, okay. Sorry. How many bombs did they test while you were there?
So that's, the best of my knowledge, somewhere between 40 and 100. And I don't, because I had no access to that information, and only through researching with this particular group did I find out how many bombs really went off over the period of the testing period. So, yeah.
And so all you did while you were there was eat, sleep, and alert.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm a little speechless, so, okay. Did you have Kevlars?
Did they have what?
Like the helmets, the metal helmets?
No, we had nothing.
Nothing at all.
Nothing
just
at all.
cover your
eyes.
and plug your ears.
And generally it said, turn away from it. But when you're out in the open, I mean, we had tents and metal building, Quonset huts. So, getting behind something or hiding, there's no sense of hiding. I just sit down and turn your back to the where you thought the bomb was going to be coming from, and that was it. And they weren't particularly safety conscious in that sense, except that the people doing the actual setting of these things up were very, very conscientious about doing it safety-wise, but personal safety garments or things like that just didn't exist.
Okay. Were there civilians on this island?
Pardon?
Were there civilians on the island?
Not on my island. It was all military. There was the Navy had a few people there. The Army had some security people there, and the Air Force had enough to run a few helicopters and a few little light transport planes.
Were there two-story buildings?
No, there were nothing but Quonset huts and tents.
What is a Quonset hut?
Oh, it's a U-shaped building. You see them. There's a lot of agricultural type buildings. And
okay.
Sheet metal buildings with a curved surface on it. That's about what it amounts to.
Okay.
Very small. Not any bigger than this area right here. Yeah.
Okay. Whew. So you appear to be okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And have felt that way your whole life.
Yeah.
Being at this reunion, have you ran into anybody that was in the same testing that you were?
I did this morning. The first time I ever ran into anybody that was in the same unit. He was there later, a year or two later than when I was there, but I'll talk to him later today and find out if we knew it. I can't remember anybody's name there, but probably we might be able to, personality-wise, point out somebody. But
so, does he seem okay too?
Did he seem okay? No, he seems bitter about something, but he
physically.
Well, yeah, he's something. Whether it was because it was bomb later or not, I have no way of knowing. I haven't talked to him that much.
Okay.
But his experience wasn't
quite the same.
Quite the same. It was a new experience, something different, and something not a lot of people have any relation to. And,
So would you say that you were one of the first people to be tested on with this bomb? And then maybe he was later?
They weren't testing us. We were part of the support operation for the test. In no way were they really testing us. I mean, we had some kind of a radiation detection badge that they gave us to. Well, every time they renewed them somewhere, some 6 months or I don't know how often. But it was just I don't even know what you call it, but apparently it was recording the amount of exposure you had one way or another. But I don't know that it was identified to you individually or how that was tracked. But that was the only.
Did your badge ever change colors or do something weird?
Apparently they changed something in. You couldn't tell it because it was just a little round black box of some kind, and periodically they'd issue you a new one, and that was. They never told us what level of exposure we had, and it wasn't until late in life when I went to the VA for a hearing problem that I even found out that there was an ion radiation survey going on. It's an ongoing thing for the military now.
I guess I'm so curious as to why you are receiving these treatments and some of the other vets that were tested are not. It just seems unfortunate.
Yes, well, good genes is all I can say for it.
I was really thinking that. I was like, man, your DNA must be super special.
Yes, because you just look around at these guys. Most of them, you can look at them and say they're not well. No, I get up and go when I want to travel somewhere. I get on my little vehicle and go. I don't have to sit and think, well, do I want to do this or do I not want to do this? I just get up and something.
Okay. So after the testing, you returned to
civilian life?
Japan.
Oh no, I went back to Japan, but then.
And then where'd you PCS out of?
Somewhere in California.
Oh, so you left that? Okay.
Yeah, I went from the island back to Japan, then to Hawaii, and back to the United States, and I think it was Travis Air Force Base that they.
Okay.
By that time,
All right, so you're about 21 now?
Yeah.
Okay. And then where do you head after that?
What did I do? I went back to school, and.
At home? You will return home?
I went to university. I went to Rockhurst University in Kansas City, Missouri. Became a CPA. Again, nothing really exciting. Cranked out numbers. And, so.
Good money, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, considering that my dad probably never had enough money to go around in his lifetime, but because I got the education and I had a good job, I became a CTA. I worked for Procter & Gamble for 25 years, retired from Procter & Gamble, started buying right-of-ways for pipeline companies. I went all across the United States doing that kind of thing. And one day I was just sitting in my office and writing up papers, and I said, I'm tired of doing this. And I turned around, looked at my boss and said, I think it's time for me to retire.
And this
he
was
said,
your
how old are you? And I said, I'm 79. And he said, I think I agree with you. It's time for you to retire. Give me your paperwork and you're out of here. And that was the last 4 or 5 years. Now I've done nothing but have a good time.
Good for you. About time.
About time.
You might be a little behind on the retirement track. You got some catching up to do. Okay, so did you ever get married or?
Oh yeah, I got married, and I had 2 children, a boy and a girl.
Okay.
And there's one incident in history that I've never talked to my wife about it, but shortly after I got back, she miscarried.
Oh.
And she didn't want to talk about it. Total bad situation of some kind. But, and then when we separated, it was no longer appropriate for me to. So, maybe one of these days when she gets ready to, I'll ask her what really happened, because that is the one thing it says. It may have been, the miscarriage may have been related to radiation. I don't know that. I don't know it one way or the other, and but it's a question. And sometime I may decide it's important enough to answer, but my other 2 children, fine.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense, and I hope you get an answer.
Pardon?
I hope you get an answer to that.
I think.
Yeah, that might be an important question. Okay, so are you a part of any other veteran groups?
American Legion. I'm going to host American Legion Post. I think by and large, American Legion Post does a lot of good for the individual veterans, and certainly they try to do a lot of good for the community at large.
So when you were in the service, you didn't want to have anything to do with other service members. Now that you're out, you're a part of these veterans groups. What changed your mind?
Had idle time and need to fill it up with something to do some good work for.
Okay. Okay. How long have you been a part of this group?
4 years.
Okay. And do you find comfort and solace in this group?
Yeah, they're fine people.
Okay. Great.
Again, I don't have a lot of friends. I have associates with people that I know, but close friendships is just not something I'm comfortable with. So.
Okay. What are some life lessons that you learned from your military service?
Try that again.
What are some life lessons that you learned from your military service?
Life lessons that all right. Respect those who are knowledge-wise superior to you. Learn from them and try to avoid making the kind of mistakes that are career damaging or mentally damaging as an individual. Learn from those who've already experienced, so you don't have to go through it.
Okay. Anything else?
No, I think that pretty well sums it up.
Okay. Has your military service impacted your feelings about war or the military in general?
Not about military in general. I think every country needs a military operation just because of the nature of our human nature to be aggressive with each other. I really hope we find out a way of doing away with atomic energy for weapons. But once that genie's out of the bag, I don't know how you ever put it back.
Okay. So after we used an atomic bomb on
Nagasaki
yeah.
and Hiroshima.
Yeah.
Yes.
How did that make you feel?
Oh, that was a very and when I first went to Japan, I had an opportunity to go to both cities. That was very moving to look out and see. You know, this is 10 years later, after we've used the bomb, and this destruction was still massive, and just really. And now, I didn't see a lot of the human sacrifices that people had gone, but physically, you look and see these building structures that had been just flattened, It was quite a moving experience. But then over time, out in the South Pacific, every time one of those things went off, you think, I hope we never have to use this again.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And then that to this day, the idea that there are so many bombs out there, so many nuclear bombs all over the country, that I just wonder how safe are we? And because every once in a while you hear of the Air Force making a mistake. And just maybe a year or so ago, they flew across the United States with 6 or 8 bombs on aircraft, and it happens. It's the Navy. You fly with them, eventually somebody's going to make a mistake, and hopefully it's not one of the catastrophic failure happens.
After Nagasaki, did you feel some kind of way knowing that you were a part of that testing that helped that destruction?
No, because from school you learned about what it was, and you saw some pictures of it. But being up close and seeing what really went on, I hope we never do this again. As far as having an emotional response to the individuals, no, I didn't feel that way. I just feel this is something where we're doing something that we don't know what it's all about, and it was true. There was atomic testing. You can't say more. We do tests all the time of new medicine, and good heavens, the opioid thing we're going through right now. They didn't intend for it to happen, but it did. It got out of hand.
Yes.
And got, was it money driven? Yeah, it sounds like it might very well have been. So, was atomic bombs money driven? You bet. Somewhere along the line, somebody was getting paid big bucks for building these things.
Yeah, I feel like that about the Iraq War. There was a lot of money in that.
Yeah.
Okay. And I served in the Iraq War, so. All right. Is there anything you feel like we haven't discussed or that should be added to this interview?
Just get as many opinions as possible.
About this, or
about the this is all about the atomic energy, and all phases of it needs to be. The people need to know what's going on out there. Just because we can do it doesn't mean we should. Look, in terms of energy, look how many energy plants that have been built and how many are not safe, because we just didn't know how to build these things so that they could be safe to handle, safe to be around. And 3 Mile Island up in Pennsylvania is a good one. They had a terrible explosion there 10 or 20 years ago, and they still can't do anything with it. And then a few years ago, Japan, because of an earthquake, Japan tried to cover it up because that's their society. Rather than say, come and help us, they tried to do it themselves, and they just didn't have the equipment to do it. So that's what I feel. We don't know enough about these things to do it, to make them safe.
Well, to get opinions, we need more veterans like you stepping up to the plate, so I really appreciate that. Okay. What message would you like to leave for future generations that will hear or see this interview?
Think about it.
That concludes our interview with Jerry Harvey. Thank you for your time today and for your service.